New York is now admitting to using semi-slave labor as a crutch for their economy, for their society's growth. You see, thanks to Governor Hochul, who revealed just how many illegal aliens are now working in their state, the admitted numbers by the New York government are that somewhere over 470,000 potential illegal aliens are working in the state. What the hell is going on here? Now, what really blows my mind is that in the warped mind of this Democratic governor and people like her in the state of New York, deportation would be bad because most of them work as construction workers. They're maids, they're housekeepers, there are cooks, home and personal care aides, they're janitors, delivery drivers. They're for the lesser than people. They're to clean our clothes, wash our dishes. Somehow in this country, illegal aliens have been allowed to fester. And I believe in large part because big business likes having this permanent underclass. People that they can pay less than. People that they can easily bully on the job because, hey, if you step out of line too much, you might get reported. You could get deported. Now, let's be fair. They're not precisely slaves, but they are a permanent underclass. They're only a few steps above slavery. They are a lower class of people here in the U.S. They get to be a less than. And the political left in this country even encourages this. I'll posit to you that a country that relies on slave labor or second-class citizens just to operate is a country that needs to change. Maybe they aren't a country that should exist. This is vile and should not stand. Now, this doesn't come as a surprise to me, though. The estimates I've seen is here in the U.S. there is somewhere northward of 22 million illegal aliens that infest the U.S. at this time. Yes, you'll see numbers like, oh, there's 11 million. But they said that 6 years ago. And in just the past 2 years alone, you had over 5 million people cross the border. But the numbers stay the same. So I would expect about 22 million living here. So the idea of having 470,000 workers who are non-citizens, who are permanent underclass, however you want to call them, not to mention who are working for you, not to mention their families living in the state, is quite unbelievable. But it is nonetheless infuriating to see this despicable governor try and defend her semi-slave labor by arguing that the growth in workforce might be disrupted. So we can't have deportation, my friends. No. It's the same kind of argument that Democrats of the past, we're talking pre-Civil War here in the U.S. because all the slave states were Democrat-run states, and they argued back then that keeping the slaves was imperative because who else would pick all that cotton? You got to have those slaves to do it. Who's going to do our laundry? Who's going to pick our crops? Got to have these underclass people do it. What the hell are we even talking about here? Now, this is an article from the New York Post, which is discussing this very issue. It's titled, New York has 670,000 residents who are illegal migrants or aliens, including 42,300 undocumented restaurant workers. This article was written by Carl Campanile, and Carl writes, New York State has 670,000 residents, I would argue it's probably higher, who are illegal migrants, including 42,300 undocumented restaurant employees and 48,500 undocumented construction workers, aka illegal workers, which is an eye-opening report released Thursday. Eye-opening to Carl. The report, he writes, from the liberal-leaning Fiscal Policy Institute revealed an underground economy of migrant workers in the Empire State, where 1.8 million residents are non-citizens. That number, of course, will include green card holders. Now, in total, there are 4.5 million foreign-born residents of the state. The data in the report, released as President Trump vowed a crackdown on illegal immigration, revealed that an estimated 51,000 illegal immigrants work in the personnel care industry, with 20,900 maids and housekeepers, 16,800 home health aides, 7,000 child care workers, and 6,500 personal care aides. They also report that some 42,000 restaurant workers are believed to be undocumented, with 7,000 chefs, 17,000 cooks, 9,000 food prep workers and 9,000 waiters. Another 48,000 undocumented workers are part of the construction industry, with 29,500 laborers, 12,800 carpenters, and 6,200 painters. And over half of all crop workers in the U.S. are foreign-born, and the vast majority of them are either illegal or undocumented, or enrolled in an employer-sponsored federal H-2A program to work here. And I have no problem with people that are legally allowed to be here. Anyway, the article goes on to write, the Institute fears mass deportations by the Trump administration would have a devastating impact on the state's economy. Again, we're relying on underclass citizens to do your work that you don't want to do. Is that any kind of excuse? No. It really isn't. Now, the report also warned that even non-citizens here legally are also in the crosshairs as Trump eyes restrictions on legal immigration as well as sealing the border. Yeah, if you are a legal resident here, not a citizen, and you commit crimes, the new Lake and Riley Act will get you deported fast, as it should be. If you're not a citizen here and you're committing crimes, you lose all privileges to be here. Goodbye. I'm sorry. No sympathy for this group of people. The immigrants, a group said in this report, are most vulnerable are those who are undocumented. But the impact does not end there. People who have temporary visas may see them terminated or renewed. And people with temporary protected status, asylum seekers, DACA, or Deferred Action for Child Arrivals, recipients, and many others are also in this precarious position. Massive raids would disrupt and potentially cripple key industries and have a ripple effect through New York's economy and communities. Removing crop workers could lead to closures of dairy and fruit and vegetable farms upstate, where agriculture is a top industry, including a growing wine sector, according to the Institute. The report concluded that eliminating immigrants from farm work would be nearly unimaginable, and reducing the number of immigrant workers by even 5 or 10% would have dramatic negative consequences, all emotional blackmail. Go, you can't get rid of them. We won't be able to survive as a country. What does that tell you about these people? The emotional blackmail never ends. But advocates, Carl goes on to write, for stricter immigration policies dismissed the talk of economic doomsday, noting that a large undocumented workforce could drive wages down across the board. Jason Richwine said the labor market in New York would need some time to adjust to a sudden decrease in immigrants, but adjust it would. Richwine said employers and government officials would be forced to focus on employing struggling Native American workers. Companies may be forced to offer more competitive wages, which would all be good for the economy long term. Cutting down on illegal immigration, Richwine said, would save New York taxpayers some of the money they must contribute towards federal programs such as Medicaid, as well as towards the various state welfare benefits. Yeah, there's a lot of money that we spend on illegal aliens in this country. The report counters that illegal migrants and non-citizens are a net plus, not a drain on New York and the U.S. And they try to argue that in 2022, illegal immigrants paid an estimated $3.1 billion in state and local taxes. In addition, the report noted that an influx of refugees has helped to rejuvenate and reverse population declines in the upstate cities of Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, and Albany. So rather than making those places better for Americans, they'll just put in the lower underclass to fill in the gaps. That's not a good thing. And when you're bringing in people at this volume, you're going to have a problem with assimilation. You bring in too many people at once into a country, and you will lose your identity. Anyway, the article goes on to write that in addition to the human cost, these policies could remove hundreds of thousands of immigrants from the workforce, causing New Yorkers to lose access to essential services, including childcare and home care. No excuses. Why don't you pay Americans a bit more than you pay the illegals to do it? They're cheaper. Why do you think they're getting the jobs? No, New York has been forced aside billions of dollars to aid illegal immigrants, including creating a $2.1 billion excluded work fund during the COVID pandemic to aid illegal aliens who are jobless and not eligible for unemployment insurance. New York City and Albany also spent billions of dollars since 2022 to aid more than 200,000 migrants who arrived from the southern border. Governor Kathy Hochul's $252 billion spending plan released Tuesday estimated that there are 471,000 illegal alien workers in New York State, which had an overall population of just under 20 million as of the latest census estimates. The report estimates that within the overall population, there are 68,000 people in New York with temporary protected status, etc., etc., etc. The bottom line to all of this is these excuses that, we need these lower class people to work the lower class jobs to get paid the lowest possible wages is not a good excuse to have them there. If you end up feeling some short temporary pain because you relied on them for all this time and encouraged them to come, that's on you. Around, you're going to find out, as the saying goes. You get what you deserve here. By putting yourself in the position to rely on these people, yeah, there's going to be some discomfort, but that is not an excuse to bring this absurd story to an end. This is not only an issue of survival, by the way, for the American way of life, because believe you me, you have this many people coming into this country who are not American citizens, who do not have loyalty to this country. You will have traumatic issues down the road. We're already beginning to see it now. So aside from the survival of the U.S. in limiting the incoming flow of new people into this country, giving people time to assimilate, to become Americans, to be part of our culture, it is also a moral issue. We should not be a society that relies on semi-slave labor to operate. There is something deeply offensive and wrong with this. The numbers do not add up here. And yet we have weirdos like Governor Hochul who are hell-bent on keeping this underclass under their control at all costs. And it needs to stop.